If you're an up-and-coming UI designer looking to take your skills from noob to pro, I've got a little magic formula to share with you today. It's called the 60-30-10 color rule. Now, you may have heard about it, but do you really understand how it can transform your designs? Well, my name's Matt, and by the end of this quick video, I'm going to share how 3 simple numbers can help take your designs from overwhelming and messy to clean, balanced, and visually stunning. All right, let's dive right in. So what is the 60-30-10 color rule? It's a tried and true principle from the world of interior design that translates perfectly to user interface design. Here's how it works. 60% of the design should be one dominant color. 30% of the design should be a secondary color. And that last 10%, well, that's your accent color. These percentages create a natural balance, giving your design a sense of harmony while also keeping things visually interesting. Okay, let's dive a little bit more into each of these percentages and see how they function in a user interface. First, the 60%. This is your base or dominant color. Think of it as the foundation to your interface. You can see here with the example from Zendesk, we've got our base color here, which is this beautiful creamy beige color that sits below everything and really sets the tone of this design. This 60% tone should be neutral or calming, and something that won't detract too much from the rest of your design. Then we have the 30% color, the secondary tone. This is one that gives your design a little bit more depth and maybe be used for things like cards or navigation elements. In the case of Zendesk here, we've got 30% black, and that can relate to things like the text on the screen. If we scroll down a little bit, you'll see here, this card, we've got the black backdrop here, which is really making this 3 points stand out to the user. As we scroll down, you'll see more of the black being used on top of that base 60% color that we mentioned before. And this really creates a sense of rhythm and cohesion for the design. Finally, the fun part, the 10% accent color. And in the case of Zendesk here, you can see that purple is absolutely the 10% accent color. And this really helps guide where you want the user's attention. So that's the fun part of this 10%. It's really a tool that can be used to draw people's eyes to where you want it to go. Some other examples here from Dribbble. So you can see the background 60% color, our base color is the white. And that really lays the foundation for this design, a really light, airy feel to this website. Next, the 30% secondary color. And you can see for Dribbble here, we're using this gray color for the search bar. We're also using that same gray color for these tags or pills below the search, really encouraging the user to search and engage. You can see that this depth is being added on top of the white. And lastly, we've got our accent color, the 10%. In this case of Dribbble, it's that pink, it's that search icon here to really get the user to click on that and engage with this website. And similar to Dribbble here, we've got an example from Airbnb, and they use a very similar idea where you've got a very light white background, 60% color. You're layering in that 30% gray on top. In this case, they're using it effectively on the filtering and the search. You've got the different active states and tabs, and that layering really creates that depth and helps the user understand what they've got selected. And then lastly, the fun part, the 10% accent color. In this case, it's absolutely the search icon as well as the Airbnb logo. And they're using that color sparingly to draw the user's eye to what matters most, in this case, to engage with the search and find a property. So this is very important when thinking about conversion. Where do you want your users to click? And that's a great starting point when thinking about that 10% accent color. So why does this rule work so well? Well, our brains naturally crave order and harmony, especially when looking at a screen. By limiting your design to 3 main colors and these specific proportions, you're creating a sense of visual hierarchy, making it easier for users to focus on what's important. It's basically a shortcut to looking polished and professional without the risk of things getting messy. All right, here are some pro tips to make sure you're getting the most out of this rule. You want to choose your palette wisely. So start with a cohesive color palette and make sure your dominant color is neutral enough to support both the secondary and the accent colors. You can use tools like Adobe Color to find and generate palettes that work well together. Another option is Coolers, which is a more modern one, and this is really great as well. It's also got a Figma plugin that you can install, and it generates you palettes that are random. You can also put your own colors in and create your palettes that way as well. So I recommend doing that. So next we want to apply accent colors strategically. Now the accent color should be saved for elements that really need to stand out. Think of it as your call to action color. Use it on buttons, notifications, or any element that you want users to notice immediately. So in this case from Unlocked Me, you can see that their green action button here to sign up and start earning is absolutely their 10% accent color, being used very sparingly, and it's not being used anywhere else in the interface here. As we scroll down, you'll see that the header text here for the key value proposition of lock, share, earn, no profile, safety guaranteed, all those standout points that they want their users to see are in that green, along with the call to action colors like this. The other thing you want to consider throughout this process is accessibility. Now, colors should have enough contrast to be legible, especially when you're using text over these colors, such as the button here. Using the 60-30-10 color rule doesn't mean sacrificing accessibility, it means enhancing readability. Now, let's look at a couple of real-world examples of the 60-30-10 color rule in action. So let's take a streaming app like Netflix. Their 60% color is black, and you can see that here on the landing screen, the backdrop of the content over here. You can see that strong black color, which creates a really dark and immersive theme. The 30% color for Netflix is a range of grays, and you can see that in use here on the detail screen here. You've got the range of gray for the download button, the secondary text color on top of that backdrop, and you can see that the blurred background at the top on scroll is also that gray color, as is the backdrop behind the content. So 60% black, 30% gray, and that 10% accent color, well, it's that iconic red, the Netflix red from the logo. You can see that the different tags have recently added the logo and different sections of selected items like the My List and different active items that you've got there. That really draws the user's eye in and focuses their attention. Another example here is from Apple. We're taking a look at the iOS settings screens here. Bit of a different example here. We've got the 60% gray, light gray background color, and you can see that appear here behind all of the content. If we zoom in on that, you can see we've got the backdrop, the base color that everything else is built from. The 30% secondary color is white in this case, and Apple's using that to section off different sections of the design. So you can see we've got the wallpaper here, and we've got that white tile, which is housing the content. Likewise, on the display and brightness screen, we've got the white tile here, allowing the user to choose between light and dark mode. The different sections below that for text size and bold text is using a white background card, and so on and so forth. So you can see that Apple's really building that depth to the design. You've got the light gray 60% in the background, you've got the white 30% in the foreground for each of the section tiles. And the 10% accent color is, you guessed it, the blue color here. Apple's using it very sparingly for action items, such as adding a new wallpaper, using brightness up and down controls, selecting light and dark mode, selecting the different notification behaviors that you want, or simply updating your iOS. So as you can see, 60-30-10 rule in action, and it's very effective. All right, so to recap, the 60-30-10 color rule is a simple yet powerful tool to help bring harmony, hierarchy, and focus to your user interface designs. The 60% dominant color sets your base. The 30% secondary color adds depth to your designs, and that 10% accent color really directs users' attention where you want it the most. This rule is the difference between an overwhelming and messy interface and one that guides your users with ease. Alright guys, if you found this video helpful, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more design tips and help with leveling up your skills. If you have any questions or want to see more about the 60-30-10 color rule in action, why don't you go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, happy designing, and we'll see you in the next video.